There's a moment that doesn't announce itself. No dramatic shift. No applause. Just a quiet realization that lands inside you one day. Other people's opinions don't control you the way they used to. It feels like finally setting down a weight you forgot you were carrying. Not because you stopped caring about people, but because something inside you became strong enough to stand on its own. That moment is rare, and it doesn't happen by accident. It comes after years of adjusting yourself in small ways, softening your voice so it's more acceptable, shrinking your thoughts so they're less threatening, editing your dreams so they sound reasonable to others. Each adjustment feels harmless, almost invisible, but together, they quietly turn life into a performance. And then one day, you see someone who isn't performing at all. They speak plainly. They stand comfortably. They don't rush to explain themselves. They don't scan the room for approval. And a question forms in your mind, almost unsettling in its honesty. How do they not care what anyone thinks? There is a psychology behind people like this. Not arrogance, not indifference. Freedom. Most people assume they were born fearless. They weren't. They simply reached a point where pretending hurt more than being judged. Nearly everyone grows up learning that belonging equals safety. Approval means acceptance. Rejection means danger. Your brain treats judgment like a threat because once upon a time, it was. That's why opinions feel heavy. That's why criticism lingers. That's why even imagined judgment can steal sleep. People who don't care about opinions didn't escape this wiring. They outgrew it. And the way they outgrow it always begins with discomfort. The exhaustion of trying to be liked. The anxiety of replaying conversations. The quiet resentment of shrinking yourself to stay acceptable. Eventually, something shifts. The discomfort of pretending becomes louder than the fear of judgment. There's often a moment, ordinary on the surface, when they look at themselves and realize they've never heard their own voice clearly. Only echoes shaped by expectations. Only versions adjusted to fit invisible rules. And once that realization appears, it cannot be undone. People often say, "I don't care what people think." Most of them are lying to themselves. They say it because they want it to be true. Those who truly stop caring don't do it out of pride. They do it out of necessity. They understand something simple and terrifying. You lose yourself faster than you lose other people. So they stop outsourcing their self-worth. When they speak, they no longer wait for approval to breathe. And paradoxically, because they don't need validation, people trust them more. The world senses inner freedom. It responds to steadiness, to someone who isn't shaped by fear. But this freedom isn't about being flawless. It's about accepting imperfection. People who don't care about opinions understand they will sometimes fail, sometimes disappoint, sometimes be misunderstood, sometimes look foolish. And instead of fighting that reality, they accept it. Most people fear judgment because they fear being imperfect in public. But when imperfection is no longer terrifying, opinions lose their sharpness. Another shift happens when they accept something most people resist. Judgment is unavoidable. You can be kind and still criticized. You can be quiet and still misunderstood. You can be ambitious and still resented. Once this truth settles in, you stop shaping your life around reactions. They also learn that opinions say more about the observer than the observed. Confidence looks like arrogance to the insecure. Silence looks like weakness to the fearful. Boundaries look like rejection to those who lack them. Understanding this creates emotional distance, not coldness, but clarity. Instead of asking, will they approve? They ask, is this aligned with who I am? That question becomes their compass. They still feel fear. They still feel nerves. But fear is no longer command. It's just a signal. This is uncomfortable, they think, not dangerous. So they move forward anyway. Each small act of honesty builds quiet confidence. Not loud, not performative, calm. They also discover a liberating truth. People think about you far less than you imagine. Judgment passes quickly. Attention is fleeting. And deeper still, they separate identity from image. Image is what the world sees. Identity is what you know yourself to be. When image leads, life becomes performance. When identity leads, life becomes grounded. This shift transforms relationships. Without fear driving interaction, authenticity replaces approval seeking. And authenticity creates bonds that last. Many of these patterns trace back to early life. Those raised under constant evaluation often cling to opinions. Those forced to rely on their inner compass learn resilience. That resilience becomes strength. It shows up as calm silence. Decisions made without explanation. Boundaries set without guilt. They practice emotional neutrality. Praise doesn't inflate them. Criticism doesn't define them. Their self-worth stays steady. This steadiness isn't ego. It's clarity. They understand they are responsible for their actions, not for others' interpretations. Over time, something remarkable happens. The more authentic they become, the more the world relaxes around them. Authenticity is gravity. It attracts what aligns and quietly repels what doesn't. They stop searching for permission. They stop negotiating with self-respect. Caring too much about opinions is exhausting. Breaking free gives the mind space to breathe. They become reflective instead of reactive, curious instead of defensive. They don't reject feedback. They evaluate it. If it aligns, they listen. If it doesn't, they release it. This ability to let go is one of the greatest strengths a person can develop. They walk toward praise and away from criticism with the same calmness. Not because they are numb, but because their identity is attached to neither. They become comfortable being misunderstood. This is a rare maturity. They understand they cannot control interpretation, only intention. Boundaries form naturally. They don't say yes to avoid guilt. They don't sacrifice peace to maintain appearances. And people respect this more than compliance. Over time, these individuals often rise, not because they seek power, but because clarity creates momentum. They accept the final truth that changes everything. Opinions are temporary. Perceptions shift. Judgment is impermanent. And when that illusion dissolves, fear loses its grip. They give themselves the approval they once chased externally. This becomes their foundation. They make peace with contradiction, with growth, with change. They choose voices rooted in wisdom, not insecurity. Their presence feels calm, grounded, unforced. They walk into rooms not to be liked, but to be real. And that realness gives others permission to do the same. This is why they are often followed without asking. Their steadiness speaks. But freedom requires sacrifice. They had to let go of universal approval. They accepted misunderstanding as part of being human. And in that acceptance, they found peace. This psychology is not rebellion. It is liberation. It is choosing truth over performance, peace over applause, growth over approval. And when you truly understand it, something inside you shifts too. You realize the freedom you admire was never out of reach. It was waiting for your courage. And maybe, quietly, that courage has already begun to grow.